So this is Dr. Amigues from UnabridgedMD. Thank you so much for joining us today. So I have the immense privilege to have Dr. Calabrese with us today. And he's been, I'm a fan of Dr. Calabrese for a long time. I've discovered, of course, in the rheumatology world, we all know who Dr. Calabrese is. He is a professor of medicine at the Cleveland Clinic, Lerner College of Medicine. He's also the director of the R.J. Fasenmyer Center for Clinical Immunology. He has been practicing clinical immunology and engaging in research and education at the Cleveland Clinic for over 35 years, even though it doesn't look like it. And he is the author of over 300 manuscript chapters and editorials on the subject of clinical immunology. And the way that I discovered Dr. Calabrese is through his work on all of the research research in immunology, but not necessarily, when we think of immunology, we're thinking very heavy T cells, B cells. So there's definitely a lot of work that Dr. Calabrese does in there, but there's also all of the work that he's doing in QiGong, in meditation, in how best to empower our patients. So what are the things that we can all do to improve our immune system? So Dr. Calabrese, thank you, Len, thank you so much for coming. We're so excited to have you. I'm a little bit starstruck here.
Oh, Isabel, please.
So there are so many topics I would like to discuss on this episode, but I had to make a choice, which is not something I can do very often. But in this case, I really wanted to. I would love for you to come back and discuss more things. But for this episode, I'd like us to focus on your work on QiGong and then your work on what you call the healing effect. And so first, could you tell the audience, what is QiGong?
Well, Isabel, I'm happy to talk about QiGong, and I'm certainly far from a QiGong master, but there's a journey here, and give me a minute, and I'll tell you the journey. So, I've been doing clinical immunology for many years, and I do rheumatology, and I do infectious diseases, and I run this center that specializes in, rare and unusual immunologic diseases. And over a lifetime, I have attracted and have seen, so many people with medically unexplained syndromes that, putatively are immunologic in origin. And this includes MECFS, which I've been struggling to understand for many decades.
Chronic, do you want to?
The chronic fatigue syndrome, and a myriad of other conditions that people come with abnormal lab tests, but really don't fit, a nosologic entity, lupus or vasculitis, etc. And so in dealing with these patients who, by our definition of being medically unexplained, but having signs and symptoms compatible with immune dysfunction, I was always struck that, we had so little to offer. No. And, you can't put people on heavy duty immunosuppressive therapy if you don't know what's going on, and there's no end organ damage that's pathologically defined. So I struggled, with an approach. And then I realized that, a long time ago that, people, regardless of whether their syndromes are medically unexplained, they all want to be well. Even if their kidneys aren't failing, their lungs aren't failing, their hearts aren't failing, they have a quality of life issue that is compromised by, generally, poor health, social functioning, disturbed sleep, fatigability, often with post-exertional features, mm-hmm. And beyond. And, our canonical approach to immunologic disease has very little to offer them, in the absence of targeted therapies or biologic therapies or immunosuppressive therapies. So in and around the same time, this was kind of the beginning of work in the field of what we call social genomics. Stephen Cole and colleagues on the West Coast started to identify that patients who have compromises of their social interactions, stress, loneliness, depression, and beyond. Not only did they have a lower quality of life, but when you started to examine them at the molecular level, they have an altered gene expression profile. I found that totally mind-blowing. And that profile, affected both inflammatory pathways and interferon pathways. And so it suggested to me that there is likely an immunologic and immunogenetic basis for wellness. And that started the journey. And I said, well, we are immunologists. We use state-of-the-art therapy. I've done clinical trials in virtually every biologic that's ever been approved or been involved with it in some way, shape, or form. But at the end of the day, there's always something else patients that are interested in. What else can I do? What else can I do? And, wellness behaviors abound. There's hundreds of thousands of sites that you can go and look for wellness advice. And I said, well, how many of these are evidence-based? What is the, what is happening at the molecular level? And that is where we started to codify what we tell our patients. So that was the beginning.
Yeah. That's
now, having said that, let me take you to the next step. So, this is an area of fascination, and we find that as with everything in wellness, there's bad information. Anything that's a quick fix is usually bad information. And then there's higher quality evidence. And if you look at it critically, we find that there is there are data to support that we can change immunologic functions with how we eat, how we sleep, how our physical activity is, and how we handle our stress. And so many years ago, I would, start to have these little discussions, and I've always worked incident with an advanced practitioner. And over the past 20 years, Betsy Kirshner, who is now a DNP and involved in all of my research, we started talking about this.
Sorry, what is a DNP for my audience?
A doctor, a nurse practitioner with a doctorate.
Got it. Okay.
A doctorate, and is smarter than I am. And so we would have these one-on-one conversations with patients, and we'd kind of talk about what to do, an anti-inflammatory diet, and whatever we knew at the time.
Yes.
And then I said, well, this is all well and good if we have the time, but people want more. So we started to say, well, let's write this down. Let's give a handout that's a page or two, and then that kind of grew to 5 pages and 10 pages, and then we realized that we had resources to develop. We weren't experts in behavioral modification. We're immunologists, but at the Cleveland Clinic, we have a lot of experts. And we started collaborating with the Wellness Center, and I ultimately had an appointment in this center. And I found that there was a lot of intriguing work going on with mind-body, mindfulness meditation. We had a bank of highly trained e-counselors that could connect with patients to talk to them about eating, sleeping, etc. And we had wonderful online programs with behavioral modification of sleep. So we put together a monograph and we give it to every single patient, and I post it on the Cleveland Clinic website, clevelandclinicCME.com.org.
Yeah, I'll put all of
it
those.
there, and
Yes, I will put.
posted on Room Now, and it's available. And I've given it to thousands and thousands of practitioners.
I'll put all this for anyone that wants to. I'll put the link so that they can look at it. It's a very good monograph. I highly recommend it.
Great. Well, and it's totally being revised right now. So 6 months from now, we'll have a new one. So that was like step 2. And then we started to say, well, we're obliged to do some research in this area. I mean, if we believe this, we have to have some equipoise to say, well, does it make people feel good? And can we detect molecular signatures of this? And so we've started a number of initiatives and a number of projects, and we have developed an online program, 10 weeks in duration, that we call Immune Strength, which includes all of these: how to eat, how to sleep, how to exercise, how to handle your stress through mindfulness meditation. And it's all done, through online. And we just got a grant from the National Psoriasis Foundation. We're evaluating its efficacy in 100 patients that have attendant stress and psoriasis. And patients with immune diseases have more interacute mood disorders than the general population. So that's moving over here. 2 years ago, we said, everybody wants to do online meditation, and everybody talks about meditation like it's something that you buy at the candy store, and you take a deep breath and you're meditating. And other people, go away for 3 months into seclusion and in silence. I said, it can't be the same. I mean, there has to be, we have to know there must be a dose effect. There must be a type effect. So I've been meditating all too imperfectly for a number of years, and we have an online program called Stress Free Now through the Cleveland Clinic. People pay a few dollars for it for lifetime access, and it's a nice program. So we said, let's do a study in stressed out healthcare workers. Everybody's stressed out. And so I wanted to know if you just use it a few minutes a day, which is, when you're telling stressed out healthcare workers, the way to be not burned out is to go meditate. Well, people will get so angry, said, well, if I have an hour a day to meditate, I wouldn't be stressed out. And so you can't tell people that. But, mindful breaths, brief periods of time, we were interested in it. So we did a randomized controlled trial of low dose meditation. We said, try to do this every day for 4 or 5 minutes. And we had a control group who listened to music, crossed them over. And then the primary endpoint is that we looked at their transcriptomic response. So we actually measured gene expression using very powerful ex vivo techniques. We also measured biomarkers and cortisol levels and cytokines and everything. And we this was just published about 2 weeks ago. And
I've read it. Yeah, you put it on Twitter. I read it. But I have a question. So because since we have the author here, might as well ask. The first question that I have about this study. So you looked at some outcomes that were biological, right? So for our data, we're not just talking about how patients feel. We're talking at how their body are responding to those interventions. So the first question I have for you is, because you chose a control group that went for music. I will tell you that when I listen to music, I go into a meditative state.
The music has the profound capacity to transmit feelings. Yeah, and as you saw that the music group, they felt better
At first,
as
yeah,
well.
right. Like,
They
yeah.
felt better as well. You know, in the world of meditation research, and believe me, when I dip my toe into all these little areas of wellness, I am not a meditation expert, and I'm not a qigong expert, but I'm an immunologist who's interested in a lot of things. There's no universally accepted control. You know, if
Yeah.
you do nothing,
Yes.
you know, then you have anticipation that you're going to get something later.
Mm-hmm.
You have to offer something. So yeah, good point.
So it shows. So my question though is, when you probably check the baseline, so before the intervention, cytokines and
yes,
did you see a difference for all of, and I think I know the answer, but I want you to share it with us. What difference did you see, whether it's, stopping to listen to an app or stopping to listen to music?
okay. So with this low dose regimen of
Mm-hmm.
4 or 5 minutes, and actually at the end of the time, people only did it like 4 to 5 days a week. This is how we tracked it.
Got it.
It made people feel better. Their stress came down, but no biomarker change. None. Zero.
That's
Nothing.
after 6 weeks, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so and there are data to suggest that mindfulness meditation, when it's done in higher volumes,
Yeah.
can change this. But it requires, if wellness behavior was easy, we wouldn't be talking about this because everyone would do it and everyone would be
Yes.
well.
Yeah.
So we're struggling to find this, and I'm still happy when people meditate for a few minutes a day, because I think that it improves their well-being, and that leads to other spin-off advantages moving down the line. So we can talk about that.
So
But it's just an example of how we're doing this work.
I love it. I think so. First of all, I'm going to pause here because I want to share my own experience. I never meditated until I hit 40, really. And my sister was like, "You're in your midlife crisis, meditate." And I was like, "Yeah, that's not going to work." and it's only once I got, so that my auditors know that I had my stage 4 cancer. So once I hit the stage 4 cancer, I was like, "Ooh, I need the placebo effect on my side." And I don't know what the placebo effect is for me. So I'm going to do anything that will help me get into a mindset of healing. So I started meditating very seriously, and I started looking at the studies because, we're scientists. And the studies were 20 minutes. So I started doing 20 minutes. But I cannot keep it up. I haven't been able to keep it up. Maybe because I don't have the will, I don't know, or my life has become more busier. But I do try to do 10 minutes. And I usually tell my patients the studies that I've looked at that shows, difference in cytokines, and that's 20 minutes per day for 8 weeks. But you're not going to stop at 8 weeks anyway. You want to continue it later on. I'm really intrigued that if you're going to follow those patients and see if, for example, they are going to do more later on, like, can this be just the beginning of something bigger for patients and for healthcare worker? Maybe they start at 5 minutes and then they move on to more.
I have a feeling, and I feel this myself, at times during my own mindfulness meditation journey, I was doing, very good and doing a lot of time, and other times I would lapse.
Yes.
But I think that once you have engaged in this, and once you have brought on those skills and that self-realization, that I really feel it makes you more of a mindful person. And when you can read your body better. So I've talked
Yes.
to a lot of people like this, just like you, who said, I've done this, I've been very dedicated. I'm not as good at it now, but I know where I am at a better place. And it's not an excuse, but I think it's an observation. And I think that's how I started looking for alternative techniques to do the same thing. And that's when I turned to mind-body. And that's when I turned to QiGong.
Okay, so this is this is a wonderful thing. First of all, I want to say this, like, for scientists like me, and it sounds like Dr. Calabrese, you were so open to it to begin with, right? But I have learned medicine as you want to show that anything works against placebo. So the way we are taught about placebo is always very negative in the medical world right now, in the Western
Especially in rheumatology.
Oh, you think so? I feel like it's everywhere.
Well, it is, but in rheumatology in particular, because our placebos are so good.
Yes, absolutely. You're correct. And so no, I just want to share this, and we will talk about placebo after, but I want to share that seeing research on all of this is so powerful for us, because we can actually share this to our patients. We can share the meditations research. We can share the QiGong, which I'm really hoping we're discussing right now. But that's so powerful for us as patients and for us as physicians, because we can say, hey, yeah, this medication works, but like meditation also works. And you cannot, maybe we're going to learn that there is an effect, the same way that if you take only half of methotrexate, it's not going to work as much as a full dose of methotrexate. So this is extremely powerful. And I think the message here is that our patients can be empowered to do things that don't require their physicians.